diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which you'll learn all about today. But I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2012. And from that day on, I became a patient advocate. And I'll explain what that is later on in the discussion. But we're here today because we want to educate the Black community on what MS is, because it disproportionately affects us. And the issue with healthcare and healthcare in the Black community or any community is that we don't learn about things until we get the diagnosis, and that's too late. We don't want to be behind the curve. We want to be ahead of it. And so there's a lot of illnesses that, your grandmother may have had or your mom may have had, and you might know it because of that. But there's also illnesses that we should learn about that it may not ever affect your household, but it might affect your neighbor. It might affect your daughter in the future. It might affect your coworker. And the more we know about health conditions, both visible and invisible, which we'll talk about today as well, the more we can support those who are diagnosed with it, but also support ourselves and ask for support. So I'm gonna stop there because I don't want to give all the tea now. But let me go back to my introduction. I'm from here. And let's give one more shout out to being from here and bringing your work and service back home. We're gonna clap it up for that too. That was always a goal of mine I've lived in a lot of places, and I haven't lived home since I graduated high school in 2005, but it was always a dream of mine to do work that I love, but then also bring it back home and have more roots here, but also just share it with the people that I love and allow them to see me work. So I'm really happy to be here and to see my family and everything. I want to thank Amazing Grace for having us and allowing us to host this event in partnership with them, not only at the church, but with the congregation and them helping us promote it. Uncle Timmy, shout out to Uncle Timmy, the pastor here. Uncle Timmy, he's the pastor here, but that's just my Uncle Timmy. And I knew that if I did this program, that I would call my Uncle Timmy first and do this program here. So I want to thank you all for, hey, I see you. I want to thank the church for allowing us to have it here. So without further ado, oh, that's another clap, yes. Okay, so without further ado, I want to introduce my co-host, Dr. Mima Akinsanya. Come on up. Let's give her a round of applause. Okay, I'm going to read her bio. So Dr. Mima Akinsanya is a board-certified neurologist, multiple sclerosis specialist, and assistant professor of neurology at Georgetown University. She serves as a director of Georgetown MS Center at Clinton. Dr. Akinsanya is a trailblazer in health equity, conducting research focused on improving access to care for Black patients with MS. Passionate about mentorship and medical education, she actively supports the development of underrepresented students in medicine. Let's give her another round of applause.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. And so how the program goes is I'm going to explain a little bit more about the work that We Are Ill does and what I do and how I got here. And then we're going to get into what MS is. And then we're going to get into some questions. And then we're going to allow y'all to ask some questions. And so, again, We Are Ill is a patient advocacy group. What a patient advocacy group is, so there's an illness or there will be an illness, and then there will be nonprofit organizations, which is what We Are Ill is, that will be created to educate and spread awareness on what that illness is. And so when you are at the doctor and you get your diagnosis, really the work is done after you leave that doctor's office, because the doctor's appointment is only 20 minutes. After you get out of that doctor's appointment, it is on you, the patient, because everybody is a patient. The day you come out the womb, you are a patient. So regardless if you have a diagnosis of a chronic illness or not, everyone's a patient, right? When you get a diagnosis like a chronic illness that's incurable, now you become a different kind of patient. Now you have to be more invested and more knowledgeable of your illness so that you can thrive and survive. What about taking your medicine, right? Your doctor's not going to be at your house taking that medicine with you. That's on you. You asking the right questions so that you can explain what you have to somebody else or to your neighbor. That's on you to learn that. Your doctor's not in your back pocket to come explain to everybody your illness, right? That's on you. And so our organization was created, and other organizations are existing because we want to make sure that outside of the doctor's office, patients are educated and they know what their illness is. And the illness happens to be MS. And so I just wanted to explain what a patient advocacy group is. So I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2012. And I was 25 at the time. And I had just moved to Los Angeles, California to start my career as a talent agent. And so I had just moved to LA in like January. And then I turned 25 in May. And then by July, I start experiencing numbness and tingling in my legs. Now, at the time, I was not saying numbness and tingling. I was like, my legs falling asleep. Like, what is this? I don't know what's going on. And I worked the talent agency I worked at, we were assistants. We were broke, hungry assistants. And so they would give us free food on Friday. So everybody will run down the steps to go get the free food because we poor. And so, sorry. So we would run down the steps to get the food. And one day, like my desk was right by the elevator and right by the steps. One day I'm running to get to the steps and I'm down the steps, but then I'm collapsing because my legs are so numb. And then I'm like, what's going on? But then they stop being numb. So then I'm like, what is happening to me? Like did my legs really fall asleep? So then I just shook it off, ignored it. You know how like you don't want to admit something's going on. So I ignored it and I moved on. Then like, let's say a week later, the numbness comes back. This time in the parking lot on my way to the car, but it doesn't go away. I ended up having to crawl all the way to my car because I could not walk. So then I'm like, something's really wrong. But again, denial. I'm 25. I ain't trying to go to the doctor. But I'm also not trying to admit that I might not be able to wear heels no more. That was my real heartache right there. And so I was in denial at first, but then it kept happening. This numbness and tingling. And so I remember, telling my mom about it and saying like, I really don't know what this is, but something's going on and I need to make an appointment. So I'll finally make an appointment to my primary care physician. And so the reason why I'm going slow saying primary care physicians, because we need to make sure we're very clear. You don't go when you're dealing with symptoms, you don't typically go to your specialist. That's not where you start. It's a journey. You start with your primary care physician or PCP. That's when you have a cold, you go to PCP, right? So I wanted my primary care physician. And so I mentioned I worked at a talent agency in Los Angeles, which was right in Beverly Hills, California. Now, what do you think the target demo is in Beverly Hills, California? You think they look like me? No, I was the ghetto girl from Detroit. And they were like, who is this girl? How you get this job? But I was there. And so my doctor's office was right in Beverly Hills because that's where the office was. And so I go to my doctor. He was a white man. And I tell him what's going on. And I'm like, hey, I don't know what's going on, but I know that my legs are going numb. And this is weird. And I know that I am young, I'm healthy, and I don't want to not wear heels. Again, heels is a big deal to me. And so I'm like, please tell me what's going on. Let's explore it. And he, is asking me like, where are you from? What you doing around here? I'm like, I'm from Detroit. I work across the street. And he's like, oh, you work at that agency? Like, yeah. And he's like, oh, I know what this is. I met a lot of assistants. Y'all are stressed. I'm like, we are. Y'all are like struggling assistants trying to grow up in your career. So y'all are stressed. And so this is probably depression. You're stressed. This is probably depression. And so I told him, mind you, I'm crawling to my car, doctor. I'm crawling to my car. That man died. He told me that it was depression and he prescribed me antidepressants. So hear me out. I'm crawling to my car sometimes. And he's telling me this is just stress. So I'm going to give you antidepressants for you to take. He didn't tell me to get a psychiatric evaluation. He didn't say, let's try these things to calm you down or relieve the stress. He sent me home with a prescription for that. And so I'm like, my life ain't been no crystal stair. I know stress. And it does not happen to me like this. So, but the doctor's right? That's how we usually operate. Your doctor tells you one thing. And if you don't know, you're just like, okay, doctor, I'm going to listen. I'm going to take the medicine. So I take the medicine. I go home. and I have some more numbness and tingling. But one time I was leaving work and I had a excruciating migraine, and I never get migraines. So I knew something was going on. And it was in the back of my head. And I remember calling my mom and I'm like, I cannot drive. I cannot see what to do. So I like pull over, and it took me a long time to get home because I had to keep pulling over. And that headache lasted me like 10 hours. So I woke up the next morning and I had numbness in my face, but on one side. And so I'm like, did I have a stroke? Because it was literally on one side. I'm brushing my teeth on this side. I can't fit a toothbrush. But then I'm brushing my teeth on this side and I can. And I'm like, what? I didn't have a connection first. I just was like, headache, like what's going on? But then I'm like, oh, numbness. So I call the doctor back. Sir, I have numbness now in my face. What's going on? So at this point, the first time I did get an MRI, he had me get an MRI on my legs, and it was nothing on the MRI. He thought I was crazy. That's probably why he gave me the antidepressants, because he didn't see anything on the scans. So then when I have this headache, I call him back. I'm like, I have numbness now. I'm thinking it's spreading. That's what I told him. I think it's spreading, but I don't know. And I feel like maybe I had a stroke because one side of my face is numb. He has me come back and get another MRI, but this time on my brain and spine with contrast. And he sees 9 lesions on my brain. And so that means when he looked at that x-ray, that my brain, he sees white spots, 9 white spots on my brain. And he says, with the numbness and these white spots on your brain, this looks like MS. And I'm like, what is MS? He says multiple sclerosis. It's an incurable chronic illness. It's an autoimmune disease. There's no cure for it. And I'm like, what? How? I'm healthy. I'm fine. What happened? What caused this? I'm asking general questions. What caused this? And he, tries to explain to me as much as possible. But he does say, Black people don't get MS. So I don't know why you would have this, because Black people don't get this. And I'm like, but I haven't even left the doctor's office yet. And you're already isolating me, making me feel like I'm invisible or weird and I'm alone. So I felt alone before I left the doctor's office. And so that day changed my life, because I went to my car, because I'm a millennial, of course, and I Google, like, what is MS? I had to Google what it is because, one, I was in so much shock because he tells me it's incurable, but I don't know how to define this. You're giving me too much right now. He was not wrong. But I get this diagnosis and you telling me Black people don't get it, and I'm alone. I'm 3,000 miles away from my family. I'm trying to start my career in all these things. And I just felt like my life was over at that point. Like, I can't do all these things that I want to do. And so when I get to the car, I Google MS. You don't want to do that. If you Google MS, it's bad. It's bad. It is basically letting the imagery that you'll see will tell you or show you that, one, you're not included in this because it was no Black imagery. But then two, it will show you people who have died from MS, or it'll show you people who are bedridden from MS or in wheelchairs with mobility devices. And that might be it, right? That might be how someone's MS shows up, but that's not the only way. And so I'm like, is this my life now? And I was told to move back home. I was told to forget my career. I was told to quit my job immediately. I was told to fix my house because you won't be able to walk up and down steps. I mean, immediately it was like, girl, sit down. Like your life is over. Your vision is over because MS is now the main star and you have to now move your life around for MS. And I ain't like that. I ain't like that. If you know me, if I don't like it, I ain't doing it. So I didn't like the sound of that. And so that day changed my life because I knew that I had big dreams of doing work and I couldn't figure out the work yet. But I knew that I wanted to, I don't know, kind of do this work, but I just didn't know what the work was. And so I started going to different things to learn more about MS. I feel like because I'm from here, I always knew to go where Black people go. Like, if you move to a new city, you're like, I need a new church. Where the Black church? You know what I mean? Or like, where's the MLK Boulevard? Where the beauty supply? Where the Black beauty supply? I knew to look for my people. I went to an HBCU. I went to Howard. So I was in DC. Then I moved to New York. I lived in Harlem. I go where the Black people reside. And so I'm in LA. I'm not seeing Black people. Then I'm like, okay, I want to volunteer. Let me go to one of the organization's events. And I go to those, I don't see no Black people. Then I don't see any MS patients. I see supporters. So a lot of people for illnesses, think about breast cancer or something like that. They have a lot of events and fundraisers. A lot of the people that attend don't actually have the illness. It's like, oh, my grandmother had it. So I come because she had it in her honor. Great, great. We want you there. But I also I was looking for patients because I needed to learn what my new normal was going to be like. And so I was searching for where are the Black patients because I need to know what it's about to be like, the Black version. Like whatever version y'all got online, I need the Black version because we matriculate and navigate through this world differently. That is how it is. It's the truth. And I knew that. And so I was looking for that and I could not find Black patients. When I Googled what MS is and I find an article, the stock image, it's a fake picture, but psychologically, you are looking for yourself in those pictures. If it's not you in it, like someone that looks like you or could be from your community, you don't feel like it's about you. So then I was looking for data. Okay, how many Black people have MS? Am I the only one? Am I a unicorn? I'm looking for that type of information. I'm not finding it. It was 2012, and I think the last study at the time that was done on African Americans with MS was 1990. So I was 3 years old. Where's the information? So I'm like, maybe Black people really don't get this. Then I go to the doctor's office and I'm looking at, sometimes you go to the waiting room and they have different pamphlets that are info pamphlets. I'm looking at those info pamphlets and I'm trying to see if Black people on those. Ain't no Black people on those. So I'm like, yo, I really might be the only Black girl with MS. It took me about 4 years to meet another Black person with MS. And that's crazy. When I got diagnosed in 2012, 2 years later, in 2014, a study came out that said that Black people were disproportionately affected by MS. 42%, 42% higher chances of being diagnosed with MS. So we're the poster child. We are the poster child of MS, but we're not on the poster, if that makes sense. That is rude, first of all. Like, we need to be included, right? But just like everything else in this world, in this country, it's not like that, right? It doesn't start like that. We have to fight to get on that poster. We have to fight to say, hey, actually, we need resources. We need to be educated. Black families need to know what MS is. If MS is disproportionately affecting Black people, I should have known what MS was before I got diagnosed, just from general awareness. And so that's why this program is so important, because we need to come to where Black people reside. We need to go where Black people congregate, which is like a church, right? We need to come to Black communities and educate our community about how these conditions are affecting us and explain it in a way that we can understand it. You shouldn't have to have a PhD or a doc, what all your degrees, doctor. We should not have to have that to be able to know what MS is. And so that's how we got here today. This program is called This Far by Faith. And this program is basically us going to Black churches across the country, having these conversations and educating just a general Black community on what MS is, because I really felt alone, and I don't want anybody to feel alone like I did. It's so important to understand what this illness is, because it's an invisible illness. And I'll let Dr. Mima explain invisible illnesses. It's basically when you cannot see that someone has it. So it's similar, like if someone has diabetes, you can't necessarily see, oh, you got diabetes, right? MS is similar. You cannot see, do I look like I have MS? Do I look like I have MS? Oh, thank you. I was about to say, now y'all quiet, but no, that is a point. Like, we are here. We are ill. Our tagline is redefine what sick looks like, because it looks like me. I have MS. I get an infusion every month. I'm in a center with plugged up, getting my DMTs every month. No one could tell, but I need to make sure people know not to judge a book by their cover. We are sick, but we are lit. Like, we can do, I'm a business owner, I'm a mom, I'm a wife. You can do all these things, and I just wanted to make sure that people knew that. So I'm not going to talk anymore about me, but I want Dr. Mima to, I'm going to go off the cuff too. Okay. I want Dr. Mima to explain what MS is in like a 101 general term.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you all for having me. I'm so excited. Oh, good girl. I'm so excited to be here. I love this initiative because, like Victoria said, we have to be the ones to empower ourselves. The medical community was not created for us, honestly. It actually did a lot of things to hurt us. And although things are changing and evolving, which is necessary, we still have to be our own advocates and we still have to take care of our community because no other community is going to look out for us like we will. So understanding different disorders, like MS that do impact the Black community is so important because we can't rely on, again, all doctors to recognize it and get you the right workup and the right treatment in time. So a 101 on MS, the way I always like to explain it, we all have an immune system, right? Your immune system helps to fight any bacteria or viruses you come across. When you're a baby, and you get a cold, that like knocks the baby out, right? But then as you get older, the common cold doesn't have the same effect on you because you've built up antibodies, which are just special immune cells that are able to recognize, oh, this is not part of my body. And so now that I'm seeing this foreign thing in my body, I'm going to attack it and make sure that my body stays healthy, essentially. That's one of the main things the immune system does. These outside bacteria, viruses, whatever infection that we may see out and about, the immune system helps to attack that and keep you healthy. However, sometimes the immune system could get confused and it can look at parts of your own body as if it's a foreign infection. So what we call autoimmune disorders, which is MS is kind of like an autoimmune disorder. It's basically your immune system seeing your own body as an infection or as something foreign. So specifically with multiple sclerosis, the immune system looks at the nerves in your brain and your spinal cord, sometimes even your eye, and it looks at the outer part of the nerve, which is called myelin. Myelin is just a fancy term for what helps to insulate the nerve. If you have a wire to any electrical outlet, we don't see the wires, right? It's insulated usually by some type of black, insulation. That's basically what myelin is. So your immune system looks at the myelin in your nerves and says, "Oh, this is an infection. I gotta attack this." But it's not. It's part of your body. It's supposed to be there. It helps the nerve communicate with other nerves. And that's why we're able to speak and talk and walk and do all these different things so your nerves are functioning well. But when your immune system attacks the myelin, it causes lesions in the brain, the spinal cord, sometimes the eye, depending on where, the attack is. And that's what causes MS symptoms. So to put it very simply, MS is a disorder of your immune system where it's attacking your own body as if your body is an infection. Do you want me to get into symptoms?
Yeah.
Okay. So depending on what part of the brain or the spinal cord or the eye that is attacked, that's the symptoms you'll have. So your brain helps you with, like moving your arm. Like I'm moving my arm like this. It's because there's nerves in my brain that are firing off telling my arm to move the way I'm moving. I'm not thinking about it, right? It's happening automatically. If your immune system attacks that part of your brain, your arm might be a little weak. You might notice hey, I keep dropping items out of my hand. That's weird, I keep tripping over my foot. It's not always a dramatic symptom like, oh, I can't move my arm at all. My arm is limp. That can happen, but sometimes it can be more subtle. Again, dropping items, tripping over your foot, like Victoria was describing initially, it's like you're trying to run to go get the food and it's like, hey, how come I'm tripping over myself? That's weird. That could be from an MS symptom. When the immune system attacks your eyes, that can lead to blurry vision. It can lead to not being able to see well out of one eye. And so people sometimes they describe over a couple days, wait a second, my left eye, all of a sudden it's all really fuzzy and gray and I can't really see out of it. That's not normal. So one thing I would encourage us all, sometimes things happen to our bodies and Victoria kind of mentioned this, we brush it off. These things are not normal and it's better to get checked out and make sure, okay, everything looks okay than just to say, oh, I'm tripping over myself. Maybe I'm just tired. There may be something else going on that it's important for you to get the right workup. And you really advocate to see a specialist. If you feel like something is off and you go to your primary care doctor and they're brushing it off, then ask to see a specialist. because you need to make sure that everything checks out okay and there's not some type of treatment that you need that you're missing out on.
Show of hands, how many people knew what MS was or knows what MS is? Like before you knew about this program, you knew what MS was. Okay. How many people are just learning about what it is today? Okay. Now, how many people know what it means to advocate for yourself as a patient? All right, I'm gonna pick Angie because you just put food in your mouth. I was gonna say I want someone to explain, if you feel comfortable, what advocating for yourself is. Okay, you eat me, Angie, so I'm gonna pick you. Can you explain?
So I got diagnosed in December.
Okay.
I skipped my PCP and went to ortho. I couldn't walk, and the orthopedic just didn't need a PT.
Okay.
I knew something else was wrong. So I
Mm.
asked for a differential diagnosis.
Uh-huh.
I also asked them to document it, and I also did do Google. But I made an appointment with someone else because I stopped there. I got diagnosed, and I also got cured. So sometimes don't take no for an answer, whether you have insurance or not. And if you have to advocate and go to a patient advocate, I filed a grievance against my neurologist, and they followed up with that right immediately.
Yep.
So
Thank you.
that's where I started.
Now, do you have a healthcare background?
No, I don't.
Because you talking real big talk over there. She like, I asked for this, I asked for that. I filed a grievance, but I'm glad you did. And I'm glad I asked you and you had that response. The reason why I asked if you all knew what MS was, and then the reason why I asked if you knew what advocating for yourself was, is because a lot of times as patients, when you just go to the doctor for a common cold, or you don't really go to the doctor. A lot of people don't really go to the doctor on a regular basis. There is a schedule that you're supposed to follow to go to the doctor. Your primary care physician, what is it, every 6 months or annually?
Yeah.
Typically is annually, right? You're supposed to go to the doctor often just to make sure you're good, right? You're supposed to go to the dentist often. A lot of people don't have a good relationship with healthcare. And so when they get a diagnosis, they typically aren't as confident as a patient because they follow the lead of a doctor. When you get a chronic illness, now the coin has flipped. Now you the doctor. You know what I mean? Like now you are telling the doctor and you get a different level of advocacy. And the reason why I asked is because advocating for yourself as a patient is so important. A lot of times, now we ain't talking about Dr. Mima, but a lot of doctors don't listen. And what their reasoning for not listening is not necessarily always bad. Sometimes they literally know better than you, and then sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't know your body. Sometimes the communication is off. It's not a good relationship. So I wanted to segue to asking you, how did you become why did you choose MS? And what are you seeing amongst Black patients if you have Black patients?
Yeah. So if you have Black patients, I'm in DC, like basically all my patients are Black, and I did that intentionally because the reason why, to answer the first question, I'm even in MS is because I want to empower and educate my community. This is why I'm here. I see being a doctor as part of my purpose. It's not just something I do, to make money or just, a job that I go to and then I go home. It's part of who I am and what I want to do to help other people, specifically my community. How I chose neurology is, I was going on different rotations in medical school. That's basically you're learning about the different specialty, cardiology, which is heart doctors. You're learning about gastroenterology, that's the digestive system. But when I got to neurology and the brain, I'm like, this is so interesting. Like, I just love to go home and to read more about it and try and figure it out. It felt like a puzzle. I don't know how many people remember the show House that used to be on TV. It felt like neurology was my version of House. Like, this is what I love to I'm trying to figure this out. I'm trying to put the pieces together. This is like such a complex puzzle. So that's how I chose neurology. And then specifically multiple sclerosis, I had a really good mentor, honestly. And I was able to work with her in her clinic. And I just love the rapport that I was able to build with patients. It's not something where you just come in for one visit and then we never see you again. You really are building a relationship. And oftentimes people are diagnosed when they're younger, maybe in their 20s, like you were, 30s. People are being diagnosed at all ages these days, but typically speaking, 20s to 30s up to 40s. And so you can really be with someone the majority of their life and really see them through so many different transitions. And specifically in our community, there's so much that we are learning and needs to be learned. So I found that to be a really important opportunity because, again, I don't want to be a doctor of anything if I'm not empowering our community. So the fact that there's so much to learn, so much to research, so much education that could happen, it all was a perfect fit for me.
So I have a question. So serving Black patients as a Black healthcare provider, what do you see as it relates to how patients treat you or see you? Do you feel there's sometimes some skepticism or like hesitation, or are we listening, or are we like stubborn? Like, give us the tea.
For the most part, it's an amazing dynamic. Like a lot of times patients will come to me and say, like, I specifically came because of you. I saw that you look like me. And that was so important. That made me feel comfortable even before meeting you. Yeah. It just put me at ease. So a lot of times people seek me out. And like sometimes my staff will say, oh, this patient is trying to see you. You don't have anything available. And I'm like, oh, well, I can refer them to someone else who has sooner availability. And they're like, no, they just want to see you.
They want to see a Black doctor.
And so I'm like, okay, understood. We'll work something out. Mm-hmm. So for the most part, I love it. I love the dynamic that we have. I love how I can talk to my patients.
You can be yourself.
Yeah, I'm like, girl, what's going on? Like, why are you not taking your medication? Or, and I can just speak how I would normally speak, and they can do the same thing. We usually talk about nails. I have one patient in particular. She's always like, girl, let me see your nails, and I do the same thing for her. And so it's just in medicine, honestly, as a doctor, sometimes it can feel like you put a mask on, and that's a whole different conversation that I won't get into today. But, it can be a fight to show up authentically as yourself in a way that is, anyway, it can just be a fight, to put it simply. So again, one of the reasons why I love being with us is because I can be authentic without even a second thought. And there's no mask there. Honestly, I feel like the biggest thing is sometimes my age. People are like, are you sure you're a doctor? And I'm like, I promise. I cried through medical school. I promise. I did all the things. But that's really it. But besides that, it's amazing.
How many, by a show of hands, how many people like their doctor? Raise your hand. Okay. I won't even ask what kind of doctor. You like your doctor. How many people have a Black doctor? Less hands. If you have a Black doctor, does that make you feel that there's a higher level of trust? You guys can just talk or nod your head. Higher level of trust? Why? Or why is that?
Like you just mentioned, I can be my authentic self. I can just talk to her and, she sees me and she can be her authentic self. And so I don't have to put on I work at U of M, so I don't have to put on my U of M, my U of M face. I can just be me.
And so being you at the doctor's office, it matters.
It matters huge.
It allows you to, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I feel like we're on the same page. It allow you to, really lay it on them, like this is what's happening, or you feel like you could say, I'm not feeling well, or something's not right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's unfiltered. It's like, my leg is just like moving by itself, and she was like, well, what do you mean? Is it twitching? Is it? I was like, girl, I don't know. Something's right. And I couldn't go to my white doctor and be like, something ain't right with my leg.
Yeah.
They would want, is it throbbing? Is it da-da-da-da-da?
It's a lot of expectation on you to know instead of walking you through it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're like, whereas Dr. George, my Black doctor, she was like, girl, does it wake you up at night? And I'm like, yeah.
Yes.
It wakes me up. I just can't even relax. It's like, I think I know what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, she gets it.
Yeah.
She, as not to mention, she of course is, very, very smart too. But she just gets the language and
What you're trying to say. You feel like there's something there, yeah. Auntie Gina, you wanted to say something?
So that's what I found I did have one, but I'm choosing to go elsewhere because I'm not getting the connection with her in terms of her being open and want to listen. She appears to be very kind of hard to read the role for her, and I don't know if, sometimes we develop a kind of an error of ourselves.
When you say we, you mean black folks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like when we get to certain positions, right?
Oh, so she bougie now.
Yeah, and so she's not, you can't connect with her, and she's kind of hard to read, and she's not as helpful or open.
Okay.
And so I find that different with another doctor that I go to, and she's very, tell me what this does.
Okay.
Tell me how you feel. What does this do with you? What time of, she asks probing questions.
Yeah.
This one she really does, and okay, well, I'll call you maybe, or just read the board that I update on the chart.
Yeah.
And so it's just
It's not,
I feel like it's more than it's more than just a black or white thing. I think in any industry, whatever, regardless of your ethnicity, you just have to surpass it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought that up because that is, well, one, as you notice, if you have MS or not, we're talking about patienthood, what I call it. We're talking about being a patient. It doesn't matter what illness. You being a patient or us being patients, it's a relationship with self. So it doesn't really matter what illness you have. You have to figure out your journey and navigate that on your own. It's a you thing, right? And so us learning how to be better patients leads to better health outcomes. So this is a really good, healthy conversation. And I'm glad we're having it because one, we have one perspective where, well, the room said they have a black provider or they would prefer or they understand that having a black healthcare provider would put them at a little bit of ease, right? But she's saying race doesn't matter. It's about the relationship. And I agree. It's both. We encourage at this organization, we encourage trying to find a healthcare provider that looks like you. Because typically, if you are new to a diagnosis of a chronic illness, something like MS, that will diffuse you from the beginning and when you start your journey because you are not really in there. It's what I call a professional patient. And so if you just go to the doctor for a cold, you over there. Okay, good. God bless you and good for you. I'm so happy for you. But if you live with a chronic illness, an incurable illness, something very like heavy where you have to go to the doctor a lot. We have to go to multiple doctors. You have to get a lot of blood work, a lot of infusions or exams. You are what I call a professional patient because you have a different relationship with the doctor's office. You have a different relationship with being a patient and a different relationship with healthcare providers together. And so us talking about this is great because we need to know that, yes, having a black provider has its benefits because like she mentioned, I already would be like, girl, your hair cute or your nails or like, what's this outfit? That is diffusing, right? That allows me to at least feel like we're on the same playing field. A lot of patients feel intimidated by doctors because some doctors do have an air about them. And it might not be because they're so educated. It might be because they've been in clinic all day. It might be because a lot of patients don't know what they're talking about. And I want to peel back the layers here and be really, I think this is a safe space, but a lot of patients don't know how to describe what they're talking about. And can you imagine being a doctor? And I'm going to speak for you real quick. Can you imagine being a doctor and you're like, okay, hello, thanks for coming. How's your day? All right. What's going on with you? I don't know. I'm just in pain. Okay. All right. Where? I don't know. Can you tell me? Actually, no, I'm a doctor. I cannot tell you where your pain is. You have to tell me where your pain is, right? Then some people will say, well, what does it feel like? Is it throbbing? Is it tingling? Is it aching? Is it this? Some people don't give the doctor much. So it's a lot of like pulling. So now on this side of the coin, the work that I do in listening to doctors, I'm not taking any sides, but I am saying we have to be better patients to help them help us. Because the more we tell them, the more they can give us a better diagnosis. If we told them my foot is blue, but it was really orange, they're going to give you the medicine for the blue foot, not the orange foot. you have to know what color it is, right? You have to know what toe it is, you have to help them. That's why I say being a patient, it's really not about the doctor's office. It's about what you're doing outside of the doctor's office. When that doctor gave you that diagnosis, did you actually go home and read about it? Did you? Did you Google it? Did you try to go to a webinar to learn about it? Or did you just wait till that next appointment 4 weeks later and you didn't do any research on your own diagnosis? And then you came to that doctor's appointment and you did not know what you couldn't give an update. You didn't select the DMT, you didn't select the medicine. Sometimes we are the problem, right? And it's not a blame game, but my point in the work that I do and why I'm so passionate is because I was there. I was the person who did not know the words. I did not know how to explain stuff. I did not know how to advocate for myself. And then I started doing more of this work and I realized, oh, I am in charge of me. What I eat. If the doctor says go do this and when I go home I do opposite, who is the problem? Who is the problem? You would be the problem, right? And so I don't bash doctors and I don't bash patients. I tell patients, get your stuff together so you can save your life, so that you can live a healthy life. You got something to say?
Yeah, and I know there's a question. I just want to piggyback off that real quick because what you described is, I know you were joking, but people really do come in like that. And, you're trying to understand, but you aren't able to give much because they aren't able to give much. So what I often encourage people, write stuff down,
Yeah.
you have a doctor's appointment next week because of XYZ that's been bothering you. Start writing down, okay, I notice it happens at this time of day, or I notice if I do this, that will trigger it. Or if I, go to sleep, I feel better, whatever it is, start writing down some of these things that when you're in the middle of the doctor's office, and I get it, it can be intimidating or it can be overwhelming, or you can just kind of freeze up in the moment. So help yourself by writing things down so you don't have to rely on remembering everything in the moment. Another thing is bring a trusted person with you, bring a family member, a friend, someone who knows what's going on so that they can also provide their insight. There have been many instances where a patient comes, they're not able to give me much, but here comes the husband, the wife, the sister, the auntie, the mom, whoever, and they're filling in all these details. And I'm like, wow, this person wasn't here. I don't know what I would have been able to tell this patient, but this other person has given me all the background that I really needed that the patient wasn't able to. And there was one other thing I was going to say. I'm blanking out, but I know there was a question over here.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much of a question. I just wanted to piggyback off of what she was saying about sometimes it's not about ethnicity. And I'm just speaking on that term because I've been on both sides of the coin. I've had non-black doctors, I've had black doctors. And I've had my non-white doctors actually be more compassionate and attentive to what I was saying, whereas my black doctors was like, oh yeah, so you experiencing this, and you didn't experience it for this long, so it gotta be this, all you gotta do is this, and I've had MS since I was 13. So it's like I've come to understand my symptoms, but I also wanted to put in the tidbit of, regardless to who your doctor is, what ethnicity they are, don't let them downplay your feelings, because it's like when you go to so many doctors and you explain, and wait a second, no, I feel pain here, I can't move this part of my body. Like, you're explaining it to the best of your ability as a non-doctor.
Yep.
But after going to so many of them and them saying, oh no, you tripping, that's in your mind. What you talking about? You probably just got a headache. And after you get your feelings and your symptoms diluted so many times, you allow them to step on it and make it not as clear.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying, regardless to who it is you go to, how many you go to, if they are not giving you a definitive answer, okay, cool, I'm gonna go see somebody else. Obviously, you're not trying to listen,
And I often tell people, if you're not comfortable with your provider,
Black, white, whoever, find another one. You're paying for their expertise, for their services, and for their help. So if you're not getting that, or if the rapport is not good, you're not stuck. You can find someone else who's a better fit for you, and you should advocate for that. Even if you have to ask them, I would like a second opinion, or find it yourself. But either way, you shouldn't stay with a doctor who you feel is not listening to you or or addressing your needs.
Yeah. And then so we say this a lot in the work that we do, like treat your doctor like you would your hairstylist. If they burnt your edges off or burnt your ends or whatever, you ain't going back. You're not going back. Sometimes we will do more research for our nail stylist and our hairstylist, but we won't do that same research for a doctor. Did you look at where they got their degrees? Did you look at what their specialty is? Like ask around, right? People leave reviews for doctors. Do your research and hire and fire doctors. You are the boss. And that was something that what I mentioned, like the difference between, just going to the doctor for a cold versus a professional patient. The professional patient side is like, they know they're the boss. And that was when I realized it was like a light switch. I was like, oh, they can't tell me what to do. Like they can't tell me what to do. I tell them what to do. Like you are the boss. And I think because, when you believe, that doctors are smart, they're brilliant, right? But at the same time, they're human. They have error. Sometimes they don't got no good personality. Sometimes they got body odor. I don't know. It could be anything. They're not perfect. But when you go to a doctor, just remember that you are the boss. And if you don't have a good relationship and they don't listen to you, don't allow that to stay, right? That could make or break your health. That could lead you left or right. That could change the trajectory of your health if you don't feel heard from your doctor. You need to find a doctor that's listening to you, that understands you. And if you feel apprehensive, you want a doctor to feel that. You want the doctor to be like, she's apprehensive. Let me go about it this way. Let me explain. Let me schedule a follow-up just to make sure this person understands what's going on. Okay. And so we have some questions that I'm going to ask you, and then we will open up the floor with questions. So start thinking about your questions. I hope you have questions. If you have questions about the work that we're doing, the work that she does, about the patient-provider relationship, about MS, it can be any of those questions. So think of questions. We need questions. Okay. So I'm gonna think of some questions. All right. Hold on. Okay. So this is for you, Mima. What are early signs of MS that the Black community should be aware of? And why is this early diagnosis so critical?
Yeah, that's a great question. Number one, knowing that MS has medications that can help prevent it from getting worse is the reason why we have to make the diagnosis early. Because if people are having ongoing symptoms and don't realize that there are lesions forming in their brain, their spinal cord, they're not going to get on treatment. And then they can eventually get to the place that a lot of people think of when they think of MS, which is a wheelchair or with a lot of disability. And nowadays we have such highly effective treatment, meaning once you start some of these treatments, the likelihood of you having another lesion is very low. So the likelihood of you developing new symptoms is very low. And we have several of these medications available now. This wasn't the case 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's newer. So diagnosis is so important for treatment. Also, just having an awareness, it doesn't feel good if some things are happening in your body and you don't know why, So having an awareness of what's going on, having community like patient advocacy organizations like We Are Ill, knowing that you're not alone, all of that comes after you know what's happening in your body. So in terms of the symptoms, a lot of times numbness, which just means you're not feeling well. So like she described, she's brushing her teeth and on one side she can feel it, on one side she cannot. That's not normal. That's what we call numbness. That can happen in your hands, your feet. It can happen really anywhere in your body. But if you notice that, hey, I'm not feeling temperature as well, like I'm in the shower and one side feels hot, the other side I don't really feel it well, or there's things in one hand that I don't really feel it as heavy as the other hand. Those are signs of numbness. Tingling is another common symptom of MS, which is basically that pins and needles feeling when your foot falls asleep or you lay on, your arm or something like that. But if you haven't done those things, you haven't, laid on your arm or your leg and you're still feeling it, that's not normal. That's, something that should be checked out. I had talked about the vision stuff before, blurry vision or trouble seeing out of one eye. Trouble walking can be common, whether you're tripping over your feet, whether you're dragging a foot, or even just feeling off balance. Like I feel like I'm walking and I'm veering one way, or I just don't feel steady on my feet. That's another symptom that's pretty common to MS. And even like bladder, like going to the bathroom. Like people can say, I'm going to the bathroom all the time. This is weird. This is happening over the last couple weeks. or I'm having trouble initiating urine, or I feel like I have to go right away and this didn't used to be, and all of a sudden, I have to go to the bathroom right away. I can't hold it or I'll have an accident. Something that can be tricky with women because MS is more common in women. And again, I said when it usually starts, or when we usually start to see symptoms, is anywhere from like the 20s to 40s range. A lot of times women have had children in that time period and they'll say, oh, I'm having all these bladder issues, but it's because I had kids, and that's probably it. Which it could be, but if, it's just always good to get checked out, especially if you had your kids 3 years ago and now all of a sudden this is happening, and it went away for a while. Get checked out. It's better for someone, specifically a neurologist, to tell you, no, we don't see anything, everything looks okay, than for you to write it off and you could have been started on treatment earlier. So, the numbness, the tingling, any type of weakness, dropping items, tripping over things, walking issues, or issues with vision, again, and then going to the bathroom, whether it be, urination or having a bowel movement, all of those could be symptoms of MS. It doesn't have to be MS, but it's reasons to see your doctor and make sure that you have the right evaluation.
And so we want to explain what the symptoms look like or feel like, because if you, like me, I was crawling to the car and I still didn't go to the doctor. Like, that's nuts. Like, that's not right. You shouldn't do that. And I want to make sure that we're all connecting the dots here on really checking in with yourself and urgently checking into your doctor to see what's going on. And so you mentioned, well, I don't know if you mentioned this, but why is it important to, when you feel something that is not normal, to go sooner than later? Could things progress if you don't go immediately?
Yeah, absolutely. So for one, if you're all of a sudden, for example, like your right arm is just not feeling well, it's tingling, you're not feeling sensation or feeling temperature the right way, that could be an active MS lesion, for example. And when someone has an active MS lesion, we give a certain treatment right away to help that lesion resolve all that inflammation that's happening, help it to calm down and keep it from getting worse over time. Also, just in general, starting treatment early can help decrease the probability of progression. So what is progression? Progression is when you're having either new lesions or just new symptoms that are getting worse over time. So, you start off with dropping items out of your hand all the time, and maybe that got better, but then over time, it's like your hand is getting weaker and weaker to, over a course of years, now you're not able to use your hand well at all. That can happen if you don't get started on treatment early enough. So progression is basically, again, the symptoms that you had that started off as not so bad get worse over time, usually over the course of years. But I've even seen people 1 or 2 years, they started having symptoms, and after 2 years, they're already in a wheelchair because they never saw a doctor, particularly, honestly, in our community. Black men in particular, I don't know, I have theories about it. That's kind of out of scope for this conversation. But they tend to have really what I call aggressive disease, meaning when it starts, there's a very short time period before it gets really bad. And then also, Black men are more likely to not go to the doctor, not get checked out, even for routine things, let alone, you're having some significant neurologic issues. So by the time, I've seen this happen one too many times, by the time they see me, they've already have so much disability, meaning they're already using a cane or a walker or a wheelchair without ever starting a treatment. I obviously start them on treatment, but it's hard to go back in time. With MS, we're not at the point where we can reverse symptoms well. We can just prevent new ones. So it's better to get started on treatment early so we can kind of stop it in its tracks versus you're 2-3 years down the line and there's not really a lot we can do to reverse what's already happened.
Yeah. So by a show of hands, who has ever been to an event like this, like a health education event? Raise hands. Okay. And what made you go? For the non-doctors, I see some doctors' hands. I know why you were there. If you're not a doctor or you don't work in healthcare, what made you go to that event? You can just say it out loud. You wanted to learn more? Were you affected by the illness that you went to? Good, good. And so what we're seeing in the community is that it's a lack of representation, meaning people are not coming to events like this. even our events, we are struggling to, as an industry, struggling to get FaceTime from the Black community. And there's reasons, obviously. I think we know historically there's medical mistrust, right? So you can come out the womb and your family has already been telling you, don't trust doctors or don't trust the healthcare industry, or they always gonna put you on this drug or this, like, it's the pharma industry it's a lot of that, right? And it's not necessarily wrong. It's not wrong. But what we're seeing is it is a tarnished relationship, and that tarnished relationship is affecting us in ways that we're not thinking about. If you don't trust the healthcare system and you don't trust doctors, then how are you going to stay healthy? How are you going to treat an illness? If you can't heal it yourself, yes, you can come to Amazing Grace to pray about it. You should pray about it, but you pray and go to the doctor. And that's why we want to have a program like this. And you can tell me, but a lot of our neurologists in this space have told me that they're having an issue with patients saying that they don't want to take any medicine.
Yeah.
They are just going to drink water, take a nap, and pray. Do that and go to the doctor, y'all. We are seeing lack of representation from us. We're not showing up. And so this is a safe space, right? Okay. And so in this safe space, I want to say, as a Black girl patient, now remember, I don't have a healthcare background. I don't have a patient advocacy background. I don't have a nonprofit background. I am literally just a girl who got diagnosed with MS. I went from getting diagnosed, not knowing what MS was, to then seeing a lack of representation in the space. And then I started to work in the space, and I started to go to conferences and go to different lunch and learns, telling my story. And I still didn't see no Black people. Then I'm like going to conferences, and I'm like, there are a lot of healthcare providers, no shade, but a lot of them, they have conferences to learn about research, right? Every year they want to stay up to date on research. The question would be, what do they need? How can we help them? What do they need? What are they saying? And I was the only patient there. And I'm like, why don't you just ask the patients? Y'all don't know? You don't know because you're not a patient and you have your healthcare provider hat on. You don't know. They are sitting in rooms, not maliciously, sitting in rooms trying to figure you out. But you're not there. We cannot allow other people to make decisions for us. We have to be a part of the conversation. So when I started to matriculate those rooms, I'm like, y'all not asking patients. Y'all not asking patients at all. They're very disconnected because they are working on the science and the data and the research. They're very disconnected with patient, like what we need or some of our fears or what we're like thinking or how intimidating it is to talk to doctors. They're disconnected, as they should, because I want you to focus on the research. I want you to focus on that. I'll focus on me. And that's why we do this work. We want patients to look back at themselves and say, how can I show up to the doctor's office better next time? How can I do my research at home so that when I get to this doctor, this is a partnership. We doing a dance and we on the same beat because I know me and you know your stuff. Now tell me about my stuff and help me out. Like, you know what I mean? Let them do them and you do you. You focus on adherence. Adherence is when they tell you to do this 3 times a day and do your exercises and walk down the street for 15 minutes, do it. That's adherence. So that when you come back to the doctor, you can say you did everything in your power to do your part of this. It is a partnership. It is not a don't do nothing until I go to the doctor. Then now the doctor asks you questions and you in there lying. Okay? Don't be in there lying. Have integrity. If you did not do what you said you was going to do, say it. So they can now meet you where you're at instead of where you're pretending to be. It is so important for us to be better patients so we can save our lives. And I know I was mentioning the rooms I was in. I just wanted to go back to that. The reason why I'm still in these rooms is because I was like, we need Black folks in here, okay? And I realized there was not a really good liaison that was between the healthcare industry or specific to MS and the patients. So I was like, I'll do it. I will be the liaison between what our neurologists and the healthcare industry, what they're trying to say to patients. And I'll break it down And you see how I'm talking now? I'm not like, da-da-da. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm not using big words. I'm talking regular. A lot of doctors talk over our heads. We don't get it, right? A lot of times, the only time you're talking about your health is when you're in the doctor's office. Then you leave, and then can you explain what your medicine is? Like, a lot of us, we don't know what our medicine is. We just take it, right? Learn what your medicine is. I realize a lot of people with MS, not with MS, with health conditions, it's a sensitive issue. It makes us vulnerable. It makes us scared. Sometimes you're scared for your life. And then it's like, oh, you're fearful. And that fear is provoking you from reading more about it. When I got diagnosed with MS, I printed out my doctor printed out what the definition was. And it was like 3 pages. I read the first paragraph and I would get sick to my stomach. And then I would get fearful and cry. Then I couldn't read anymore. So then I would put it under my bed. And then a week later, I would try again. And I would read that paragraph, and then I'd get to the second paragraph. Then I would get so emotional and scared, I would put it back down under that bed. And then I wouldn't read it again. And it just took me time. And that's fine. If you get a diagnosis, it's going to take you time. But take the time to read the full thing. Read all 3 pages, because what does that mean for you if you don't even know how to define what MS is? I also realized that people in my space couldn't even pronounce multiple sclerosis, but they also could not define it. Does your husband know what your diagnosis is? Could they tell the neighbor? Does your child know? When you leave the doctor's office, if you get a diagnosis, do you tell your family, or do you don't want to bother nobody? They're going to worry. They're going to freak out. Don't do that. Tell your family. Bring them to the appointment. Allow them to learn. Bring them to stuff like this. If you have MS, make sure your friend comes. Make sure your mom comes. It's a community responsibility to know about these health conditions and to take care of each other. And so that's why we're here. We are here. That's why we're here. All right. So we are over time with our Q&A, but I want to open up the floor for you all to ask any questions. We have a doctor here. We have a patient advocate here. It doesn't have to be just MS. It could be patient related, right? It could be doctor related. It could be, how do I do this? And before I pick the person who I see first, everybody got one of these? There's a QR code. If you scan the QR code, it will take you to a survey. And this survey is helpful for us. Now, I want to take a moment to explain why. I know these are annoying because I don't like to do them. But I want to be honest. If you guys don't respond to surveys and things like this, we don't have information to take back to the healthcare industry to say Black people do show up for themselves. What's happening, and I'm going to be very transparent, when I talk to our partners, pharmaceutical partners, hospital partners, in the healthcare system, the rep is that Black people don't care about their health. That's the reputation we have. Black people don't care about their health. They don't come to stuff like this. I'm talking as them. We spend money to come to bring them education so they can learn more about their health, so they can take better care of themselves, and they don't show up. And you want to know the truth? Y'all don't be showing up. Not y'all. But our community don't show up. It's better things to do. Now, what those better things are, I don't know. But I know that we are disproportionately affected by a lot of things, not just MS. And so whose responsibility is it to show up and learn about it and take care of themselves? Ours. But also, why we got them thinking that we don't show up for ourselves? That's not that made me mad. That's why I'm still working today, because I come in and I hire Black doctors to come and educate. And I have a Black team of Black women with MS, and we are running things for our community. And I love that, because it was a lot of rooms where it's just white faces trying to tell me how to live my life and the issues that I'm going through. And I'm like, not only am I a patient, I'm a Black woman. How I see the world and how I matriculate the world is very different from your other patients. So I need I need culturally competent education. So when I'm learning about MS, I need her, like, she got her nails done and she got her hair cute. I want to learn from her. I realized that the message was through the messenger. And that's why we've had a lot of success, because we realized that MS patients that were Black, they were tired of the same thing I was tired of. They wanted to see a healthcare provider or learn from a healthcare provider that looked like them, and they wanted to hear from a messenger, which would be me, that looked like them. And we have had so much success. We rang the bell at NASDAQ this year. Woo! I've been all over the country, Denmark, going to Spain. I'm talking about Black folks everywhere. I'm always talking about Black people and making sure that we are represented. And it's always just me, the token Black patient all the time. And I try to change that by amplifying voices. So we had a question. I seen a hand over there. Is your hand? You still have a question? Okay.
Go to the point where it's telling family and friends about your diagnosis and what you experienced.
Yeah.
So some of us may have family that kind of like brush it off because, of course, when MS comes in seasons,
Yeah.
you start experiencing symptoms, and they don't take it serious. So what would be your advice for how to connect with our family quicker and make it a little bit more urgent for them to understand and at least see it as something serious?
Great question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Can your family come with you to an appointment? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Right. Right. So even coming, like Victoria said, coming to an event like this, so I understand, the doctor's visit. My first, suggestion would be have them come to the doctor's appointment because I do that all the time, explaining to family members, and they'll ask me, "Hey, can you tell my husband that when I say I'm tired and I don't have the energy to, do the stuff around the house that I usually do, that I mean it. I'm not just making that up." Or, "Hey, can you tell my wife that I really don't have, whatever," or tell my sister, whoever it is. And I'm happy to explain it in ways that they can understand. And there is just a level of like, okay, the doctor is saying this now, they don't have any reason to lie usually. But if your family is not able to come with you to your doctor's appointments, events like this are very helpful, even webinars, and a lot of these things are on YouTube, you know what I'm saying? That you can catch even if you don't catch it live. But I would try and educate them through another voice, because the reality is, your family's very used to you. They've grown up with you. So there's a level of familiarity that can sometimes hinder them from hearing you and fully understanding your experience. But sometimes hearing from someone else is like, oh, wow, and it's not because they don't trust you, they don't love you, but familiarity can really dampen our ability to fully accept something. And that's goes beyond healthcare, there's so many layers to that. So I would say, again, doctors' visits, webinars, patient programs, patient advocacy things. I even have pamphlets in my office. I think it's from MS Focus, if you want to look them up, about how to explain MS to a family member. So I give that to patients. So yeah, I wish I knew. I can maybe try and get it to you.
Yeah.
But there are pamphlets out there or education materials out there explaining your diagnosis to your loved ones in a way that they can understand, hey, I'm not just saying this. This is actually part of the disease.
I want to add to that. We have a lot of conversations like this and try to actually role play with our community members to help them, because what happens is your family could likely just be scared. And that is why we have to talk about this more, because this is like inner work. This is inside work. How people act when they're scared is all different, right? So you might go into like, oh, I got to figure this out. I'm about to be so knowledgeable of MS, and you go to planning mode, right? The next person who could be a family member, they shrink, they avoid. So we have some people have avoidant personalities, and they will avoid because they're fear. It's not malicious. They're scared. And so your diagnosis likely scares your family. They don't know what you'll be like in 20 years, and they won't talk to you about it. They won't even ask you how you're doing. I have had MS since 2012. And when I tell y'all, I've had all of the experiences. I've had people literally see me at a party and it's like, hey girl, how you doing? I'm good. My uncle died from MS. What? Literally like the third thing they said to me. Weird. They're uncomfortable. my MS makes them nervous, and I have to manage other people's feelings and emotions in that moment, and they don't know what to say. So they say weird stuff, or they will just say whatever blurts out, and then, or they'll ask too much, but I just realized people are uncomfortable with things that scare them, and healthcare and health conditions scare people. And so you might have to have a sit down for real, especially if you need them. Like, I don't know if you're, a mom or anything, but my MS is always my MS. Whether I still got to be a mama. Tired is, I don't know what. Just came from infusion, got all kind of stuff going on. Still mommy. I got to still push forward. I can't explain that to my 5-year-old. Hopefully I could explain to a 6-year-old. You know what I mean? Like, hopefully she get it next year. But, or even, your relationship with your family, you'll say, I'm tired. They be like, I'm tired too. Not like me. You're not tired like me. What are you talking about? Or people will jokingly say, oh, you going to bed at 8, grandma, or something. I'm like, I literally have a condition. I have fatigue, and you don't even see what you're saying right now. You know what I mean? Because they haven't really looked up the symptoms of MS, right? So it's a lot of management. So I always have them watch some stuff, come to things like this. But I started telling my family, you come into this because you need to learn what MS is and be able to explain it without me being here. We now have another hand? Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So on social media, I'm seeing something that's been shared by a lot of people in my age group. That doctors are to black women what police are to black men. And a lot of my friends have been walking, and they are new mothers, or they've been mothers they started their family within the last 5 or 10 years. They're very educated. These are people who really rely on the hospital. Whether it was therapy, dermatology, internal medicine. So to see them really, I'm being emotional. I'm sorry. Like express this fear. I'm really concerned, and I've spoken to some of them, and most definitely, their birthing. Sorry.
It's okay.
Their experience giving birth was traumatic for them. They're still actually recovering. So I don't know if you all. I guess that's just a comment. I don't know how you want to respond. I asked them individually to express me how I can support them. So I don't have to do one thing for all of them. I'm going to tailor it. But I want to know if you all are looking into it, because you hear about the black men being afraid of going to the doctor, but there are a lot of women, black women, very highly educated, very well connected to the hospitals and internal interventions, who are deviating because their birth experiences were so traumatic. Are they doing research on that, or is there anything that you are discussing?
I didn't hear some of it, but you
Yeah,
you heard it.
that's heavy and true, unfortunately.
A lot of people probably didn't hear it. Can you
Okay,
kind of sum up what
so
she asked?
yeah, basically she was describing how the birth experience for a lot of black mothers is traumatic, and people have even compared what police are to black men, doctors are to black women, because so many black women have had traumatic near death or death experiences with birthing. Did I summarize that? Yeah. So that's why I said it's heavy. And I wish I could say like, oh no, that's not the case. It is. Honest. I have there's a lot of my friends who are doctors who are scared to give birth. Doctors themselves that are black women, but being a doctor does not it doesn't exempt you from racism and systemic racism and the realities of what the healthcare system is to us in our community. In terms of what work is being done, there is a lot of research and advocacy efforts in this area that I can say, especially when people like Serena Williams, people who are very notable have traumatic experiences. Those things help shine a light on a very real issue. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still kind of sitting with that analogy you gave.
Yeah. What I can say is the work that's being done is on the patient advocacy side, right? Because we have to let the healthcare professionals be healthcare professionals and learn what the issues are, right? Learn about the science and learn how to treat the patients, right? On the patient advocacy work, we are kind of doing that inner work of, yes, like two things can be true. The healthcare industry can traumatize you And the healthcare industry can be how you save your life and how you give birth, like the example you gave, give birth to your kid, right? You got to go to the doctor, right? So both things can be true. How do you navigate both? You know, that's where the work, like events like this come in. We get to now talk about healthcare outside of the doctor's office, outside of the surgery room, outside, we need to talk about these more to start to heal that trauma. And then that inner work has to be done with you and God, right? The trauma is going to be there because it's real. The experiences are real, but it doesn't mean that we can avoid going to the doctor. It just doesn't work like that, right? Yeah.
And something I would just say real quick, for anyone who is planning pregnancy and, planning to give birth, I would ask your gynecologist those type of questions. Like, what kind of things do you do for your Black women patients to ensure a safe and a healthy delivery? And if that gynecologist is like, oh, everybody's the same, I would probably go to a different one, And this can be applied across the board. If you go to your doctor and ask, like, what things are different or what things are done differently or what things do you consider in me as a Black patient, and this is something that, affects Black people differently, like MS, like birthing. And if they look at you clueless or say, oh, we treat everyone the same, that may not be the best fit for you. Especially when you know that there are discrepancies, that Black outcomes are different than counterparts. You need to go to a doctor who understands the differences and takes that into account when they're treating you.
Yeah. If a doctor does not take into consideration that illness you have disproportionately affects African Americans, you want them to acknowledge that, because then they will know how to treat you. Yeah. Other hands?
I have a question. I'm just wondering, when sometimes it seems like it can be very, very difficult to get approval for whether it's medication, ultrasound, whatever is needed. Sometimes it seems like insurance makes it very hard to actually do that process. So I'm just wondering, do either of you have any recommendations on how you all navigate, whether you're ordering it or...
Yeah. So the first thing I'm going to say is everybody hates insurance, even the doctors, because they're profiting off of this, and they're in the middle, and they stop a lot of things from happening that are out of doctors' control. So I want to preface that insurance is hard to navigate. But the second thing I want to say is that is why when you're a patient, any kind of patient, that's why you have to have that confidence and endurance. You have to fight. You cannot, like, sometimes you might be on hold for 2 hours. That's exhausting. That alone will stop somebody from calling again, because who got 2 hours to wait on hold, right? You can't let that stop you, because it's your health, right? So who's going to save you? You. So we have to fight. So if you have any condition, especially as we age, you got to fight. And that's a hard truth and an ugly truth, but you got to fight. The third thing is, yes, there are resources that I know for sure our community don't know about. We don't know about it because we're not sitting there on healthcare websites all day, just scrolling, looking. You're not necessarily looking for it, but there are resources to help you navigate. They're called navigators, and a lot of different. So I know the MS Society has MS navigators, but there are patient advocates or navigators that you can call for your insurance companies, at your insurance companies, and they will help you navigate some of this, and case managers, right? So case managers, has everybody heard of a case manager? Anyone? Y'all nodding. Can I see hands? Okay. Case managers help you navigate all of this because it is complicated, right? They will call your insurance, or they will help you get approvals and things like that. Sometimes, like with my infusions, it takes a long time to get approvals. So sometimes that will block your care. Don't let it block you. Call a case manager, tell them your issues, and they will help you navigate it. But definitely call. So I hope everyone wrote that down, writes it on your phone. And a lot of times, if you are on a medication, they have teams for the medication that can help you get approvals or help you navigate it if you're getting blocked. But unfortunately, insurance, they're their own beast. Any other questions? Any other hands? She wants to ask this. Hold on.
Real quick, make sure to loop in your doctor. There's been times where I may prescribe something. I don't know that insurance has denied it until my patient says, hey, this was declined or whatever. The information doesn't always get back to me, believe it or not. So make sure you loop them in and ask them, are there resources available to help me either get this approved or get this paid for?
Very true.
My question is a very quick one. I attended a Can Do MS Black meetup virtually,
Yeah.
and there was a Black neuropsychologist there, and she mentioned about cognition because MS and brain fog and cognition. My question is, how often should you get a neuropsychological evaluation?
That's another insurance battle sometimes. Ideally, it would be great to have a baseline, meaning when you're diagnosed, having one done. Sometimes people do it yearly. Sometimes people just wait until, if there are more cognitive brain fog, trouble concentrating symptoms that come up. But what I have found, at least in the DMV area, it can be very hard for it to be insurance approved. So it's not that simple for my patients to just get one at baseline and then get one every couple years. So unfortunately, it does depend on insurance and resources.
I just wanted to about your insurance question. If you have issues with your insurance, you can always also contact Department of Insurance and Financial Services. You can file a complaint, and they have consumer analysts who will go back and forth and make sure what you're near.
But I am because I know.
Yeah. And a lot of, like, to follow up from what she said as well, a lot of doctor's offices, like my doctor had the MS nurse, so she fights for me. I don't even have to worry about it. She goes back and forth with them too. So definitely look your doctors in. Another question? Yeah. Right here.
I just wanted to piggyback on something that you said earlier. My husband's had an autoimmune disease, sarcoidosis, for like 30 years. And so during the course of all of this, it's so important that if you're a patient, that you do bring a support person with you and that you identify that person as your mother, as your wife, as your as your son or your daughter, because it really does make a difference when the doctor knows that there's someone there, not only you not as the patient, but your support person. And the other part, let's be honest, men don't hear what we hear.
They don't. What? I don't men hear what we hear. Can the doctors explain the ears of men?
So it not only do you need to be present with them, you also need to bring a notebook.
Yes, bring a notebook.
You need to take notes. You need to document them and date them so that the next time you go, you can reference that. Or you need to say to them, okay, you're going to change his medication, but did you look at all the other medications and what is the impact going to be? Is there going to be an interaction? Is it going to be negative or positive? And it really is okay to say to your doctor, well, how much experience have you had with this? Are you new? Are you a resident? Are you on a fellow? Are you going to be here next time we need an appointment? Because with autoimmune diseases that last a long time, you need consistency. I don't want to tell another doctor 6 months from now this long story because I know you didn't read the record because the record is this thick and you don't have time.
Yeah.
So my time is just as valuable as your time. And so you want someone who is experienced. And as you say, if you don't feel it, if it's not right, then you find somebody else. Normally at the end of our doctor visits, because I'm constantly taking notes and asking questions, and they'll say, well, what do you do? Well, what difference does that make? It's like, no, we can't come back here. So you really have to be a strong advocate as a caregiver and as a support person. You really need another set of ears to hear what they're telling you, because when you get there, you're tired, you're in shock. You're not hearing everything that's being said. So I really support and encourage you to bring someone with you and to take notes.
All right, I think we have time for maybe 2 more questions, and then we got to wrap up. We're over time.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Yvonne Hampton, and I've had MS for over 30 years, and I can relate to everything that you said from the beginning to the end. Now I feel like I'm getting towards the end. So my question is, how do you navigate your MS when you're older? I'm over 65 now. Do I graduate into it? I've been on the medicine ever since the beginning, but I wasn't with this before. I just got this wheelchair, maybe walker, wheelchair, whatever you want to call the thing, about 10 years ago. But I had a big stressful thing in my life to happen. And I could see the difference after the stress. But before that, I was walking and talking like all of you guys with nothing. And you couldn't tell I had MS at all. But even to this day, people, when I'm sitting down, they can't tell I have MS. But when I get up to walk, they say, oh, yeah, you got something. So what is it that you have? And I'm also a member of Yoga Moves with Mindy Eisenberg. I think she had talked with you, and but she sent me the information and everything. And I do that. I go to the pool. I do something every day just trying to help my MS. And the walking is gone, I think. But I still try to do the best I can. And I wanted to know, is there I have had other friends that as old as I am that had just stopped taking medicine completely. And I'm not an advocate of that. And is there one, I think they said Mavincade was a one that you can graduate off of eventually, but I'm still on what I'm on, which is Ocrevus, and I get my infusions once every 6 months, and I seem to have been happy with that. I feel like I got so much to say, it's not enough time.
Yeah, so when it comes to MS and age, when we're younger, the immune system is that more hyperactive, more likely to get confused and start, creating the MS lesions by attacking the nerves. There's not a hard and fast age, but around the mid to late 60s, the likelihood of that happening is very low. So that's why a lot of MS specialists, including myself, take people off of the medication because the medication does a really good job of preventing new MS lesions. None of the medications do an amazing job of preventing progression, which is slowly over time, the symptoms that you had are getting worse. So we usually end up taking people off medication, and everyone's a little bit different. There's different things that you have to take into account, but again, mid to late 60s, even 70s, just because the medication is not probably going to help as much with what it's good at. Is it something you wanted to? Okay.
Like lesion.
Okay.
I don't have any new lesions, haven't had any new lesion for years, but they're dark now. I guess they're old.
Right.
And everything.
Right. So, I mean, I would, whatever your MS specialist, because they have the full picture, whatever they recommend in terms of the medication, I would go with. But what you can do, it sounds like you're doing amazing things already. You're swimming, you're exercising. All of those things are helping to keep your body moving, helping to make sure your muscles aren't getting too stiff, which is so important. Exercise, no matter what the age is, whether you have MS or not, is medicine. I know people, the doctor says you need to exercise. It's like, yeah. No, seriously. Exercising is a form of medicine that can get you off of medicine in certain disorders. So you're doing, it sounds like, a really amazing job making sure that you're exercising and moving. And we usually, after a certain point of time, are just trying to target the specific symptoms and like, okay, what can we do to help that?
Right.
So if you're having stiffness in your legs, is there something that we can do for that? Physical therapy is another amazing thing that can help with MS symptoms, whether you're on a medication for MS or not.
Right. I have went to physical therapy countless times, and everything that they've done, it didn't really help me, but I learned a lot. When I go to the pool, I have copied some of the stuff that they did, and I do it in the pool. I can't swim, but I do the stretching and the movements that they showed me how to do. And even with the yoga moves, I have learned how to do stuff at home by myself, other than doing that, along with taking my medicine and trying to eat right, but that doesn't work all the time. And then I'm an advocate, and I would love to join your group
Aw.
in any kind of way that I can.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'll talk to you after.
Okay.
Thank you for coming. All right. Well, we're at time, and I have a few things to say. So first, I'm reminding y'all, fill out the survey. Use the QR code, get your phone out, take a picture, fill out the survey, let us know. This lets us know if you like the program, if you are going to come back to another one, if you want to learn more. It just gives us information, and that allows us to continue to make programs even better. The other thing I wanted to say is I wanted to acknowledge our sponsors, Genentech. They are amazing supporters of the work that we do from the very, very beginning. And I wanted to make sure that I acknowledge them and thank them for entrusting us to do this work. Also want to thank the church, Amazing Grace. Another round of applause. And also wanted to say that We Are Ill is making a donation of $1,000 to the church because we love y'all and we want to make sure that we can't do a lot, but we want to make sure that you all know that we appreciate you, but we want to sow back into our community because this is community work, like I mentioned. And so MS does not stop at the doctor's office. We want to continue to talk to congregations across the world, and especially Black congregations across the world, for them to know what MS is. Again, you don't have to be diagnosed to know what MS is. You knowing what it is matters to people like me, to people like her. It helps her job when family members or community members know more about MS because we feel seen. There has been a very long time where MS has been disproportionately affecting us and whooping our butts, and nobody was checking for us. Nobody was coming to Black communities. Nobody's coming to Black churches. Nobody's going to HBCUs, but we are. We go to where our community is, and we want to make sure that we are supported and that we actually receive the resources that are available. So thank you all for coming. This is bigger than you know, but I literally started this. Oh, this is my husband. Hey, Jamal. But I started this. I was like crashing with him and I was like in his living room, like, what should I do? Nobody knows that Black people get MS. And I started this as an idea and posted stuff on social media and kept posting. And then people started sending people to me. And I'm like, who am I? Like they calling me like, hey, my friend has MS. My sister has MS. Can you talk to her? And I started taking calls, not knowing what I was talking about, but they wanted to talk to somebody. They're like, I have MS and I don't know anybody who has MS. I want to talk to someone. And it was me. And I started doing that. And I'm like, I can't take no more calls. What can I do? And so I created a Facebook group. And then from the Facebook group became the website. From the website, we got incorporated, started doing events, started working with partners, and then really learning. And so I'm learning as I go, but I have been doing this very confidently, boldly, and just know that I'm typically the only Black person there. Okay. But I'm repping always, and I intentionally show up in rooms. This is one of our partners here from Genentech, but she can tell you I come to rooms and I'm in Copenhagen with braids. Okay. I wear braids on purpose because I'm like, this is a Black girl. This is how we show up. This is how your Black patient will look like. And this is what being Black with MS looks like. So I want to thank y'all again for being here. This has been great. Oh, Jamal's telling me I need to plug Wellness Weekend. There are flyers over there on the table, but Wellness Weekend is an annual conference that we host. It is a room that is filled with Black people with MS. From healthcare providers are there, patients are there, loved ones are there. We have all this educational information, but in a very fun way. So imagine being at a conference where you are learning about your MS. You get to hear from brilliant doctors like Dr. Mima, she'll be there, but you get to hear about MS, ask questions, but you also get to meet other women that have MS or other husbands. Like my husband meets other husbands that have wives that have MS, and they get to talk and they like, what your wife be talking about? Or sometimes they're talking to him like, my wife doesn't listen to me or she always doing something. But we all need support. Caregivers need support. Husbands need support. Moms of those with MS need support. But it's an amazing time, and we created a seat because we didn't have a seat at the table. We created it. And so it is for us, by us, and it's this November in Atlanta, and there's more information on the flyer. So if you would like to come. You will learn so much, but it's also just a way to support the organization and the work that we do, because if no one shows up, then how do we keep going, right? All right. Thank y'all again and have an amazing day.